before we start? You tonight again, starting this new class. We are now in the middle of the week, super quickly, right? Time is going on so fast ultimately, and I guess it's the same for you. So, well, I am very happy that yesterday we started with one of the most difficult but nonetheless interesting sections in the exam, which is the speaking section. And what we are going to do tonight, it's simply to continue with our classes and our excursus on the speaking section, which, as I say, it's one of the most demanding one. Personally, it was very difficult to adapt my speaking to this section when I was also preparing for it a couple of years ago. And I think that today we're going to manage to understand the first task, which is, as you, I think, have managed to see, the overall topic for the entire week. It's going to be the topic that we're going to be discussing throughout the week. And the first task is actually, for many students, one of the most difficult ones, because it allows you, or it actually requires you, to speak about your own life. And for some people, that is quite uncomfortable, right? I actually was having some, personal calls with one of my students some hours ago. And this is one of the best students that I have ever had. And even when he is very good at speaking and also in the formats of the section, he had some troubles with the speaking task, especially with the first one, because of that, because what I mentioned, because for him, it was difficult to speak about his life, and he just felt uncomfortable with it, and he had some troubles. Nonetheless, of course, it's necessary to open ourselves to the reviewer, right? Because he's going to be the one who is going to finally gives us the score, and we need to convince him that our response is correct. Okay, so having said that, let's start with today's class. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to see what we have for today. Okay, let me open this. Here our PowerPoint presentation, and let's go. Okay, speaking slides. Okay, so as you remind, yesterday we had started with this, the speaking section. And, I decided to put this puzzle here because I think the section, it's very puzzling somehow. But of course, although it's puzzling, it's difficult. It somehow confuses you sometimes when you manage to complete the puzzle, when you manage to find the solution and how to repeat that solution to make all your tries successfully, then, well, you enjoy it. Okay, so I think that is going to happen as well with the first task of the speaking section. So let's go. Remember, yesterday we saw general aspects of the section. We saw what are we going to be evaluated about in the section. We saw as well what materials we're going to have. I recommended you some special indications of how to manage your headphones, how to put them on. Remind that for those of you who were not able to attend last class, this class has already been uploaded to the YouTube channel you have in the description in your WhatsApp group. And if you're not able to find the video, maybe for some problem, tell me, and of course we can solve that. Okay, but everything that we talked about yesterday in yesterday's class, it's already uploaded to the YouTube video, or excuse me, to the YouTube channel in this case. Okay, so we saw how to manage the headphones, how are the notes going to work for this section if you're taking the IVT version of the exam, or if you're taking the home IVT version. We talked about all of that. Okay, I also gave you actually one of my personal hacks for this section, something that helped me very much at the beginning, and something that helped me very much when I was taking this exam. That is not even something theoretical or practical, but something simply that I can recommend you because of my experience, because of my presence in the exam, and because of my observations while taking the exam. Okay, so if you want to remind this hack, please rewatch the video that I also uploaded to our YouTube channel. Okay, now today I think that we had seen just a little bit what the speaking section task number 1 consists in, but of course let us repeat it just in case you have forgotten and you didn't have a complete glance yesterday. Now remind, the first task of the speaking section is called the independent task, and there is a reason for that. Okay, it is not for no reason. Remind that the independent word here means that the response you are going to offer to your reviewer in this case is going to be a response that is going to contain information, that is going to contain expressions and maybe situations of your own life. You are not going to depend on any material offered to you by ETS in order to respond to this question, but all you're going to use to respond is going to be your own experience, okay? Your own life, your own knowledge, your own data, your own situations, everything you may have, you're going to use it for this response, okay? For those of you who are joining, we are about to enter into the first task of the speaking section, the independent task. and then just refreshing your brains that the reason why this is called an independent task is because you are not going to rely or you're not going to respond based on any material that ETS is going to offer you, but everything you are going to use to respond to this task and question is going to be about your own life, or it's going to be or it's going to be from your own memory, from your own knowledge, from your own opinion, from your own arguments, from everything you can offer, okay, to the exam or to the reviewer, okay? Nothing from the ETS company itself or nothing from the exam itself, but something coming out of you, okay? Your own experience and knowledge, okay? Wonderful. So now let's read, okay? For those who are joining as well, we are getting into the first task of the speaking section, okay? Let's read what this task consists about. In your first task, it says you will be required to say your opinion on a general topic, and you will have to defend and sustain it. You will have little time to finish the task, which breaks down to the following. You're going to have 15 seconds to prepare a response and 45 seconds to deliver it, okay? Now, notice something very important. It says here that you will have to say your opinion, and you will have to defend and sustain your opinion, okay? Not only expressing your opinion, not only conveying, getting out of you what you have to say about any topic ETS proposes you, but you also have to defend it. And that is the reason why I included a picture of this man here. As I said yesterday, for many of you, this character is very known. It's somebody who's very popular, Ben Shapiro, famous political commentator, very famous political analyst. The point is, this man is super famous. Why? Because he's a good debater. People say that this man here is able to express his opinion, but not only to express it, but to defend it. He has a lot of arguments, sometimes very clever, sometimes I don't know. But the point is that he defends what he believes. And that is what you're going to do, okay? That is what I want you to think. That's the reason why I'm putting the picture of him in this particular slide. Because when you are in this task, I want you to think that you are Ben Shapiro, that you are a person who is very well known, not just because you are going to offer your opinion and express your opinion, but because you defend it, okay? You have to take that role, that characteristic in this part of defending, being a debater, un debatiente, okay? Defending, sustaining your opinion, all right? Now, I want to also go to our simulator in order for you to remind how this section looks like, okay? Let me go to it. Speaking section, number 1, quiz mode, and answer questions, and let me show you. Okay, so your screen is going to look like this on the actual exam, okay? You're going to have some instructions here as we read yesterday. It says question type task number 1. You will not be asked to give your opinion, as I said, about a familiar topic. After you hear the question, you will have 15 seconds, as I also mentioned, to prepare your response and 45 seconds to speak. Now, what is going to be that familiar topic they are mentioning here? It's this one. Some believe it is important to learn as many foreign languages as possible. Others believe that speaking 1 or 2 languages fluently is enough. Which do you think is preferable and why? As you can see, the familiar topic they are mentioning in the instructions, it's simply a sentence, it's simply a subject that is asking you to take a position. That is to say, there are 2 possibilities. You go for this option or you go for this one. You go for left or you go for right. You go for white or you go for black, okay? So I want you to think about that and to remind it, right? Because I have had some students that somehow respond to these questions by trying to stay in the middle line. That is, for example, in this particular illustration we have here, it says, some people say it's better to learn as many foreign languages as possible. That is to say 4, 5, 6, 7 languages if you are capable of. And other people say that it's better to learn just 2 languages. So in this case, you have to take a position, right? Better to speak 7 or just 2? Which one? But some people, not wanting to get into that trouble of choosing a position, they just remain neutral. Or they say, I'm not sure. I mean, there are some points here. There are some good points here. I'm going to respond with that. No. In this case, dear students, it's not a good idea, not a good strategy to remain neutral. it's not a good idea to stay in the middle one. You need to take a position, okay? Because remind, what is the reason also why I included the picture of Ben Shapiro here? Okay, take notes on this. Because Ben Shapiro tries to convince people that his views are right, okay? He's not speaking just because he wants to speak or because he has been required to speak. No, he's speaking because he wants to convince people that what he believes, what he considers to be true, is indeed true, okay? He wants to convince his audience. And that is exactly what you need to do as well. You need to convince your reviewer that the position you have taken, the position you have decided to defend, is the correct one, is the true one. And if you are not secure, if you're not sure of your response, if you're not sure of your position, how on earth are you going to manage to convince your reviewer if not even you are secure of your own choice, opinion, and response, right? So the first thing you need to do is to be very secure about what you're going to defend. If you want to go for this option, well, go for that one, but defend it, okay? Try always to choose a position, not being neutral, okay? Not remaining in the middle, but taking this or this, left or right, white or black, okay? One of those. Now, let's continue with the presentation. Of course, you're going to understand this way better when you look at an example. So let me present you now an example of this, and then you're going to listen to a response that I recorded myself, okay? Responding to the question that you're going to be able to read right now. And by doing so, I think you're going to understand what does this section consist of. Let me show you then. Okay, so let's listen to the instructions. Remind that every single time before you start the section, before you start the task, there's going to be, of course, you're going to be with your headphones, right? That is what we talked about yesterday. So you're going to have your headphones on, and what is going to happen? There's going to be an instructor giving you some instructions. Listen to what the instructor is going to say on that day.
Some people believe that raising children is the most beautiful thing a person can do for society. Others are of the opinion that a person's career is their most important task in life. Which opinion do you find more persuasive? Explain why.
All right, wonderful. So in this case, the instructor is simply reading the topic. So what is the topic in this particular case? What is the statement or the topic that ETS is proposing me for me to take a position? It's the following one. Some people believe that raising children is the most beneficial thing a person can do for society. Others are of the opinion that a person's career is their most important task in life. Which opinion do you find more persuasive, and explain why? So as you can see, in this case, the situation is repeated. ETS is asking me to take a position. They want me to choose from considering that the best thing people can do for society is raising children, that is to say, to have children, to take care of them, stuff like that, or to concentrate in their professional endeavors. I have to take one of these options. I cannot remain neutral, as I say. Don't do that, okay? Choose one. Now, listen to the response I gave, okay? And you're going to understand how you are going to respond to this question as well. Now, I want you to notice the following, okay? When you listen, you're going to notice that there is a pattern that it follows, because we're going to listen to two examples, okay? After we finish this one, we're going to move on to another example, of course, with another recorded response. And you're going to notice and be able to identify, I think, that it always follows a structure, because that is exactly what I'm going to be giving you as well. I'm going to give you a structure, a format for you to follow when responding to this type of question. Because if you have a format, the only thing you're going to have to do is to change the information that you receive, of course, because when we are practicing the topics that we receive for practice, as for example, this one, raising children or going for professional endeavors. Obviously, this topic is not going to be the same one for you in the exam. It's going to be a completely new and never used topic. Nonetheless, if you have a format and a structure of how you're going to respond to this type of question, then the only thing you're going to have to do is to change the information with the one you received that day. Okay, I think it's super understandable. Now let's listen to the response I recorded for this particular topic. Listen with me. Okay, with regard to the topic, I believe that a person's career is the most important task in life. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, children are not necessarily a positive addition to the world. Maybe they turn out to be criminals. For example, I had an uncle who had a child that got into drugs and began stealing things. Secondly, if you're really good at your profession, you can come up with a revolutionary idea to positively affect people's life. As I want, for example, to be able to enact a law to allow people to create enterprises with very low taxes to improve their quality of life. Wonderful. As you can see and observe, I just used 4 or 5 seconds in order to respond, right? And that is exactly the same timing that you are going to have in order to respond to this first task in the speaking section, okay? So now, second thing I want you to notice from my response. If you pay attention to it, you're going to identify that I always mention information about my own life. In this case, I gave the example of an uncle who had a child who got into drugs and he began stealing things from other people. And that is, of course, something negative, right? Something that is not good for society. So I'm using my own experience and life in order to do what? To support, to sustain my point. Now, let me tell you something very important. In this case, I have to confess, the information I am mentioning about my life is not true. I actually don't have an uncle who had a child who got into drugs. No, I don't have personally, thank God. But the point is, I am using that information, and of course, I am making it up, right? I'm lying, maybe it sounds bad to you, but the point here is that honesty is not actually necessary. Why? Because they are not evaluating your honesty. They are not evaluating how good you are in your moral duties. No, they want to make sure that you are able to communicate to people in a personal manner. This is actually one of the only 2 parts in the exam in which they are going to allow you to do that, to interact with your reviewer in a personal manner, which is something that many people want and many people avoid to do, but nonetheless, you're required to do it. Now, of course, if you have information that is real, true in your life, that can support your position, wonderful, use it. But if you don't have it, it's better to make it up, because one of the objectives, as we are going to see right now in the presentation of this particular task, is to express as much personal information as possible. If you talked about your own life, your own experience, how your position is true and real in your life, that is going to make your response to get a high score, because that is what you want, right? You want to get a high score. So include as much information of your personal life as possible, okay? Try to include as much personal information as possible. Now, let's continue with the presentation before we get into other example. Some recommendations for the independent task. There is no right or wrong position to choose in this task. When you must decide what position to take on every statement, you may want to think which side you can defend more easily. Okay, this is very important. Let me come back here to this page. Now, remind, when you read the topic that ETS proposes you for you to discuss and to take a position on, as I told you yesterday, I think, or if I didn't tell you this, I'm telling you right now, you never have to fear that your reviewer is going to disagree with you and is going to, of course, decrease and lower your score. Never think, for example, okay, if I ask this way, that raising children is actually the least effective and positive thing that somebody could do for society, maybe my reviewer, the person who is going to listen to this response and to give me a punctuation for my response, is going to disagree with me and he's going to lower my score. No, I mean, I have to go for the other option because it's more family friendly or politically correct. I mean, not at all. Why? Because actually, as I say, the reviewers for this section are professionals who are trained in order to remain neutral. They want to be convinced. They are waiting for you to demonstrate that the position you take is true, correct. So don't be afraid of choosing the one that you consider it is true. Now, there is something else. It is not even necessary to always choose the one that you know it's correct. Imagine that, for example, it asks me about, I don't know, if I prefer dogs or cats. If in my own life, I prefer cats, but I know that if I respond that dogs are better than cats, I could defend that position or statement more more quietly and more calmly and easier than defending the position that cats are better than dogs. Maybe the correct or the rational choice would be to go for that one. That is to say, to defend the position that dogs are better than cats, even when I, in my personal life, don't think that is true. That is to say, I prefer cats, but nonetheless, because I know that responding that dogs are better than cats, that is going to facilitate my response. Because maybe I know that there are better arguments for saying that dogs are better than cats, or something comes to my mind more rapidly. Well, why not go for the one that you consider is going to benefit your person, that you consider is going to be suitable, conveniente, convenient for you, okay? The one that suits you the most should be the response or the position you should take and decide to defend. Not necessarily the one that you actually believe in, okay? It's not necessary. Of course, you can always go for the one you prefer and the one you consider is true. But I tell you, it's not necessary, okay? If you want, if you know that you can defend one position more easily, and of course you want to get a high score, right? And if you know that if you respond to this question with the option that is easier to defend, you're going to be way more calm. You're going to have the opportunity to organize your ideas, not to freeze when speaking. We'll go for that one. I think it's time for being intelligent and going for what it suits you, okay? For what is convenient for you, right? Now, let me continue. So remind, there's no right or wrong answer to choose. Choose any of the positions you have here available for you. The one that you consider is the best for you, or the one that you honestly consider is the true one and you want to defend it. Go for it. The point is, no good or right answer before you choose the position. That is to say, when you are thinking, which position should I defend, or which side should I be on? When you are deciding that, there is no right or wrong answer. There's no a correct or a wrong answer. There's no a best and a worse response. No. The only thing that exists is your own consideration, your own decision, and what you think and consider is going to be beneficial and convenient for you. So go for the one you prefer, okay? Before choosing the position, there is no right or correct answer, okay? Excuse me, right or wrong answer. So now what else? Let me show you. Okay, move this. Yeah, okay, wonderful. So let me continue. Maybe, as I was mentioning, you know, okay, let me read from a little bit backwards. When you must decide what position to take on every statement, you may want to think which side you can defend more easily. Maybe that is not your actual position on the topic, but if you know that you can come out with arguments for that side more rapidly, you should prefer that, as I mentioned, okay? Once you have chosen a position here, I have like an M, sorry for this, wonderful. So once you have chosen a position and have begun to deliver your response, you must treat the position you chose as the correct one. Now, let me clarify this. Remind that I told you, before you decide what position to take, there is no wrong or right answer. That is to say, you should not think, oh, if I choose this position, somebody's going to punish me later and they are going to lower my score. No, don't think about that. That is not going to happen. No right or wrong answer before you decide what position to take. Now, let me be super clear here. After you have decided which position to defend, which is going to be the one you're going to defend in those 45 seconds, you should consider the response you have decided to take as the correct one. And by this, I mean that in your response, you should never demonstrate insecurity to say, I'm not sure, maybe I should have gone for the other one. I'm sorry, I'm going to defend the other one, not this one. No, if you have chosen one, you must consider right from that moment that that is the correct one and the other one is false. The other position is the wrong one. Maybe other people in your room, if you're taking the IBT version, are going to defend the other position, the contrary position to the one you are defending. So think about them as your enemy. They are the ones that have chosen the wrong answer. and you are choosing the right answer, okay, after you have chosen. And what do you have to do? You have to defend your position to demonstrate to your reviewer that your response is the right one, okay? That is the difference that I wanted to make. Before choosing the position you are going to defend, no right or wrong answer. But after you have decided what position to defend, then your response, the one that you have chosen, for you, it must be the correct one. You must never hesitate. You must never doubt, but you have to defend it with everything you may have, okay? Your best arguments, with your best ideas, your best experiences, everything. Put it there in your balance, okay? In your side of the balance. Now let us continue. You must not express any hesitation to your reviewer. Avoid all type of phrases like maybe or I guess or probably. Never, okay? Always speak in an indicative mood. Do you know what is indicative mood? Maybe you remind this from grammar when you were learning how to speak English. There's a difference between subjunctive and indicative mood in sentences. Subjunctive is when you propose things that could be, or that should be, maybe that is going to be. But when you speak with an indicative mood, you are affirming things. This is this way. You are wrong. This is this way. This is the correct form. This is black. You are not saying this, maybe it's black. No, this is black. Or this is false. You're not saying maybe it is false. I don't know. No, this is false. You are treating things as affirmations. You are indicating things, indicative. So in your response, always speak in an indicative mood, affirming things. My response is the correct one because of the following reasons. First, second, third. Okay, as you can see, affirming, as I did it, right? Affirming. This is the correct answer because this. As you can see, indicative. Affirm, speak with security, convince your reviewer that your choice is the correct one. Don't forget that, okay? Your choice is the correct one. The one that you have chosen, that is the correct position. Demonstrate it. Convince your reviewer, all right? Now, before we get into another example, any question about this? Anything you may want me to repeat, to clarify? Tell me. I'm going to do it with pleasure. Anything? Or we're fine. Right. We're fine then. Now, let's get into another example. Not necessary here. We have opened this already. So, second example. Let's read and listen, okay? Second topic. This is older practice for the same task. Let's see.
Some people think that the criminal justice system should exist to punish wrongdoing, whereas others believe it should be used to prevent people from reoffending after their sentence is over. Which opinion do you find more persuasive? Explain
Wonderful.
why.
So we have here a very British woman describing to us what the transcript or topic for this first task, is. Some people think that the criminal justice system should exist to punish wrongdoing, whereas others believe it should be used to prevent people from reoffending after the sentence is over. And sometimes when you speak to British accent, it stays to you, right? It attaches to you. Which opinion do you find more persuasive? Explain why. Wonderful. So let's move on then, remind the topic, and let's listen to the response that I also recorded for this particular topic. Now, remind, I want you to listen to it very carefully and try to notice what particular phrases I repeat from the same or from the previous response, because as I told you, I'm going to give you a format, a template that I use when I respond to this first task. And that is the one that I'm following right now. So I want you to listen to it and try to identify it, okay? Listen. Okay, with regard to the topic, I believe that justice systems should exist to punish wrongdoings. I believe this way because of the following reasons. First of all, because it is fairer to punish people with retributive justice, that is, to punish what they have done. For example, I saw yesterday a man who had raped a poor girl. He must be punished because he committed such atrocity and not otherwise. Secondly, because if you punish people
very severely for what they did, you disencourage them to do it again. For example, I know of a politician that did not embezzle again of his authority after he got in jail.
Wonderful. There you are. 45 seconds again, right? So if you notice, there are some phrases that I repeat, and that is because I am following a format, dear students. And what is that format? Well, let me present it to you so that you can also use it in your responses, okay? Let me show you. Where is the format I am using? This one. The structure you should follow. Let's see. The way you have to begin your response is by saying, with regard to the topic, okay? Why do you say that with regard to the topic? You say it because, of course, you are looking for a way to start your response. And in my experience, by the way, I use this one in the way or in the time when I took the exam. Okay, so this format is somehow tested. Okay, this is not something that I'm making up and I'm showing it to you and say, well, prove it for yourselves. No, I used it, and of course, I got 27 right out of 30 in this section. So I know this works. All right, use it. So the reason why I start with regard to the topic is because, of course, I am somehow trying to make my response not to be too direct, right? And trying to make it a little bit organized to sound professional, right? So with regard to the topic, and after you say this with regard to the topic, which if you listen to my examples, I always speak as the first sentence of my response with regard to the topic, you simply express your opinion. This is a time for you to say, if you agree, if you disagree, which position you decided to defend. This is the time, for example, in the last illustration, what did I say? With regard to the topic, I consider that justice system or the justice systems should be used in order to punish people for what they have done. That is to say, retributive justice. What did I do? I just simply stated my opinion. And that is exactly what you have to do. After you say, with regard to the topic, you state your opinion. Imagine that the topic was about, again, which are the best animals or the best pets, dogs or cats? If you decided to go for dogs, then you say, with regard to the topic, dogs are the best pets you could ever have. As you can see, I am saying that phrase in an indicative mood. Dogs are the best pets you could ever have. I'm not saying maybe dogs are the pets that you could ever have. No, that doesn't demonstrate security. Dogs are the pets that you should ever have, or the best possible pets you could ever have. So with regard to the topic, take notes on this. And after that, you say your opinion, you say your position, right? After you have finished, okay, pay attention to this. To define what your position is, you have to begin to defend it. Remind, that's the reason why this man is here in this slide. You need to demonstrate that your position is the correct one. How are you going to do that? Well, you're going to offer some reasons to your reviewer to demonstrate to him that your response is the correct one, that the other people who have chosen the other response are wrong. You are right. So after you have stated your opinion, you say, I think this way because of the following reasons. Because of the following reasons. You are, what is this? This is a transition phrase. You are using this transition to move on from your introduction. In this case, the introduction, let us say, would be with regard to the topic and your position. That would be the introduction. And you are using this phrase here in order to make a transition, to transition it from your introduction to your body, that is to say, to your arguments, okay? This is a very important phrase because if you don't mention this, your reviewer maybe is going to have a tough time, a hard time, knowing, okay, where did this person start to mention his arguments? I don't know, I cannot know. But if you say, because of the following reasons or because of the following motives, I believe this way, he is going to easily identify when you are starting to give your reasons or arguments to defend your position. So always include a phrase like this. Of course, maybe you decide to vary the words a little bit. You don't want to use the exact same words I use. Of course, go for it, dear students. It's your choice. Nonetheless, because of the following reasons, that is the one I recommend, the transition from your introduction to your body. And what are your body? Your body are your arguments. First argument and illustration. So as you can see in this case, what am I doing here? I am simply stating what my first reason or argument for holding my opinion is. For example, in the last illustration I gave, I said, I believe this way or because of the following reasons I said, right? Firstly, because I consider that retributive justice is better than any other type of justice. That is what I said, right? You have to punish people for what they have done and not otherwise. That is to say, my first argument is that the best type of justice that you can somehow bestow upon people, it's retributive justice. That is to say, to punish people for the things they have already done, and not saying, for example, well, I think this person is going to commit a crime in 2 weeks. So therefore, because I think this is the way, let us just get him into jail because I consider that this person is going to get into trouble later. Well, that is not retributive justice. What retributive justice is, as I argue, it's simply if somebody does a crime, or if somebody commits a crime, an atrocity, then you punish that person because of what he did, not because something that he could do. Okay? So that's my first argument, right? Retributive justice is better than any other type of justice. Now, what is important here? Notice the word that is after the word and. First argument and illustration. First argument and illustration. Illustration is tremendously important. I cannot, I think, emphasize in this part more because this is, horribly important. If you don't illustrate your point with an experience of your own life, which is of course relevant to your argument, relevant to your position, it is going to be super weak. That is to say, your argument is not going to be convincing. Nonetheless, as we are people, right? We are human beings. Whenever somebody talks to us about a topic, about a proposition he may have, a contention, and he demonstrates that what he believes, what he is trying to defend or to propose to us is true in his own life, then we are more likely to accept that as true. For example, let's say that somebody talks to you about the way or the time when he, let's say, had an experience with ghosts, that is to say, phantasmas, right? So if he had this experience with ghosts, and he talked to you, okay, I found Gosh in this place and he appeared to me and I don't know, we fought, I don't know, whatever. Maybe if you know the person, if you know that he's somebody super honest, whatever, and if you notice how that particular story, now that he believes in ghosts, it's something that affected his life, that he had an experience that is going to likely convince you or maybe give you, okay, this is possible, maybe, to accept that ghosts exist. But of course, if he just tells you, actually ghosts exist because of these reasons, and he continues giving you arguments, well, maybe at some point that is going to be boring to you and you're not even going to get interested into it. So the point here, if you want to convince your reviewer and to keep him interested in your response so that he doesn't, for example, deconcentrate, and so that he doesn't, I don't know, consider your response as something repetitive or boring, you need to always be constantly informing this person of your own life, of your own experience, okay? That is my recommendation. So that's the reason why after your first argument, you go with an illustration immediately. First thing you do. If you have finished your first argument and your illustration supporting your first argument, remember, for example, the last illustration I gave. What was my argument? That retributive justice is better than any other system of justice. What illustration did I use in order to support that argument? Remind, I said, yesterday I saw on the TV a poor girl who sadly was raped by a man. I consider that this man who raped the girl should be punished because of the atrocity he committed and not otherwise. I am somehow showing to this reviewer that I saw yesterday something that somehow crushed my heart, a poor girl being raped by a man on the TV. So given that I know that, I consider that my point is correct. I am helping my case to make my reviewer understand, oh yeah, what he's saying is true. If somebody commits an atrocity, a crime like that, he should be punished because of what he did, right? I am convincing him. So try to always include those type of illustrations. If they are more personal, better. In this case, I couldn't think about something more personal, of course, because it's in my case, I think that the topic was super difficult, right? Retributive justice, complicated to think about this. But the point is, even when I didn't have like a super personal experience, what I used was compelling because I am showing my reviewer how something that I saw on the TV really, really crushed my heart, made me think about the atrocities that criminals commit and how retributive justice could help to avoid that. And that took me to my second argument, right? I said, secondly, because if you punish people for what they have done, they are likely not going to commit that in the future. That was my second argument. That if you punish people for what they do, that is going to prevent them from doing that again in the future. My second argument. How am I illustrating that? I gave an illustration, right? In order to support my case, my argument. What illustration it was? I used, for example, I know a politician who embezzled in his career, embezzled, it's malversar, embezzled his funds in his career. And when he got into jail, he never started doing that again because he was afraid to get into jail again. That's what I said, right? So as you can see, again, I am using an example of my own experience of what I know to demonstrate my reviewer that because of this thing that happened to me or that I was aware of, I can support my argument and to demonstrate to him that what I think is right. Okay? Remind, argument and illustration, they are inseparable, always together, argument and illustration. Never offer arguments or illustrations without the other one. They go together, argument and illustration. Don't speak the entire 45 seconds about your own experiences because that is not going to work. It's the argument and the illustration, okay? In that order. Argument, you say, because of this reason, and then you use your illustration in order to support it, okay? That order, argument, illustration, argument, illustration. Now, here in the template, it says second argument and illustration. Why? Because my recommendation, dear students, is to offer just two arguments. For example, when I prepare myself for this exam, I got a recommendation by somebody who told me, he was also a professor. He told me, you should always use three arguments. But in my experience, the first time I took the exam, I tried to follow his recommendation. And it was awful. Why? Because three arguments and three illustrations in 45 seconds, I mean, that is almost impossible. And it also, I think, it doesn't allow you to expand, to talk about what you really believe. That is to say, if you use three arguments, everything you're going to mention is going to be super superficial. That is to say, it's not going to be something profound or something that is convincing. So my recommendation, two arguments, always two arguments, not one that is not enough. Okay, that will be sadly not enough in order to satisfy your reviewer. Two arguments is perfect because you are taking your time to explain every single one of them. You are making a strong case because two arguments is a considerable amount of information. You are giving two illustrations. I think two arguments is the best option here, okay? Of course, you want to implement more arguments, go for it. If you think you are able to do it and if you consider that you can somehow explain your arguments in this 45 seconds and to make them understandable and convincing, well, go for it. I'm not the person who will deny you that, okay? So what I recommend, two arguments, all of them well explained, of course, within the 45 seconds and with the illustration, all right? Any question about the template, any question about the format that I am proposing to you, anything, please, I'm going to be delighted to help you. Anything you may have not understood? We're fine. Fine?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, so that is all actually about the first task. Now, what are we going to do? We are going to practice. And I think that we are all going to be able to practice. Why? Because this is a super short task. So now I want you to please, if you don't have it, bring a piece of paper near you, okay? Write down this, okay, so that you don't forget it and you go about memorizing it as well, because of course you have to memorize it in order to know what to say. And we are going to practice, okay, together. Okay, so let me close this. I'm going to open the simulator here. Here we have, I'm going to, okay. And actually we're going to use this one as an example. So I am pasting this to the chat box for those of you who are more comfortable reading it there. And remind, in order to prepare a response for this particular task, you're going to have just 15 seconds after you have read and after your structure, because remind, every single time in your headphones, there's going to be somebody talking, saying to you, okay, now please start preparing your response after the beep. And there's going to be a sound like beep. And after you listen to that beep, then you know that your 15 seconds are already counting down. That is to say, your 15 seconds are already going on and you need to move on and prepare your response. So 15 seconds is all the time you are going to have in order to prepare a response. And how are you going to prepare the response? Well, my recommendation, take your sheet of paper, for example, in this case, I here have a notebook, and start writing down the format. Okay, the first thing you have to do is to write down the format. To begin with, because of the following reasons, first argument, second argument, and leave some blank spaces. Why? Leave those blank spaces to fill those spaces with the knowledge or information you are going to include in your response. That is the way you should prepare your answer. That is to say, to write down the template you're going to follow and to leave some blank spaces in order for you to complement those blank spaces with the information you are going to follow. I actually have a picture here. Let me show you. This is for the second task, but nonetheless, the idea is here. Look at this. So imagine this is your sheet of paper. As you can see, this is the format for the other section. By the way, please don't get confused. We are going to talk about this next week. But the point is, as you can see here, I have my format. And what do? I simply leave some blank spaces. I write down my format. I leave blank spaces for me to fill those spaces with the information I'm going to mention. I continue with my format and I leave the blank space. So that is the thing you should do when preparing your response. Writing down your format so that you don't lose your reasoning train and you know what to say at every particular time and moment. And of course, writing down and leaving that space to fill it with the information you're going to mention, your arguments, your things, your reasons. Okay, that is what you have to do. Now let's practice. Okay, how are we going to practice? Every single one of you is going to talk right now, and we're going to do that in, of course, in a random order. But every single one of you, I'm going to give you 4 or 5 seconds to prepare, or your 15 seconds to prepare the response, and your 4 or 5 seconds to speak. And every one of you is going to speak in 4 or 5 seconds, and then we're going to move on until everybody has spoken. And then I'm going to give some feedback, okay, for you to improve something that you could maybe polish a little bit. I'm going to be helping you with that, okay? So who is going to be the first person? It's going to be Miguel Angel, okay? Because it's the first one I see on my screen, so it's not because of the reason, okay, Miguel Angel? It's just because I see you right now on my screen as the first one. So Miguel Angel, please be ready. I'm gonna have prepared here a chronometer. This chronometer, by the way, works this way. I press the button, and here we have a bar, and the bar gets empty. So when the bar is completely empty, you know that your time is over, all right? So this is the way we are going to be measuring the time. So as you can see, 15 seconds to prepare the response and 45 seconds to deliberate, okay? So please, Miguel, you're gonna be the first one. All of you, dear students, begin preparing your response right now. And when I mention your name and I say start responding, you respond, okay? I'm gonna take some notes and I'm going to give you some feedback. Okay, so please, Miguel, and all of you, dear students, because I'm not going to give more 15 seconds. These are going to be the only 15 seconds everybody's going to have. Please start preparing your response now. Right, time is over. Miguel, please begin responding to the question now.
Okay, to begin with the reading passage, I think that focusing only in 2 languages is going to be really useful than trying to learn as many languages as possible. Why I say this? Because when you try to study less things but in a better way, you learn almost everything of those topics, and so that way, practicing every time 2 languages or only one is gonna make you a master of those, rather than just trying to know as many languages as possible, which you're gonna confuse at all. And that's true.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Laura, you're the next one. Please turn on your microphone and start responding to the question now.
Okay, with regard to the topic of learning many language, I think the most important is like to learn because nobody knows who you will meet in your life, and because of that reason, and also because as many people took as a hobby, it can also help you with a job or with your employment. Can give many benefits to you in the life. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much, Laura. Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, so now the next person is going to be Nata. Please, Nata, be ready and please start delivering your response now.
Well, I think that speaking. Sorry, the microphone.
Okay, let's go again. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Please
Sorry.
start.
Well, I think
Yes.
that speaking various languages is a better option because it facilitates you to get more job opportunities. Like, for example, I know someone who speaks French and she got a master in France. Then she went to Germany because she also spoke German. So I think it really makes things easier for you. And I think that also makes tourism easier when you love to travel and when you go to various countries, not always all the people speak English. So speaking those languages can make things easier for you.
All right. Thank you very much, Nata. Wonderful. Give me a second. All right. Wonderful. Now, Sebastian, you're going to be the next one. Please have your microphone on and start responding to the question now.
Being with the topic, I believe that for career purposes, it's more important to masterize another language besides your native tongue. To dominate it is the most important part. Once you have written and speak it fluently, you can see that it's beneficial to your curriculum to learn another one. If you want to change from residence, or you have to maybe learn in another country, maybe to study in another country, and also to have also if you have another language, it's better to okay, bro.
No, it's fine. It's fine, Sebastian. Thank you very much. It was a good response. Okay, thank you. Okay, very cute. Just a second. All right. Now, Jessica, you're the next one. Please have your microphone ready and start responding the question now.
With regard to the topic, speaking one or two languages fluently is enough because the following reason is, for example, if you need to study in another country, you don't have a problem with use two languages if you speak fluently. But if you don't speak very well other language, could be 3 or 4 language fluently, I think that you have a problem for the communication. The second reason is that if you learn two language fluently, the investment will pay off. That's all.
Thank you very much, Jessica. All right, wonderful. And finally, Claudia. Okay, so please start responding to the question, Claudia, now.
I believe, with regards to the topic, I believe that it's better to learn as many languages as possible because of the following reasons. First, when you learn a new language, you learn also the culture, which allows you to understand better the people of the places, the people that speak that languages. For example, while traveling the world, I find it easier to make new friends while knowing their language. Second, because learning a new language expands our world. It gives us new possibilities. For For example, my cousins are able to study abroad thanks to their knowledge of other languages.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Chloe. Wonderful. Very much. Very, very good. Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, so very good students. I wanted to say I am impressed by how good you are in this particular task. All of you, okay, congratulations. You are very good, okay? I have had some other cases in which it is a little bit more difficult, but all of you have demonstrated an incredible proficiency, and that honestly fills my heart with joy, okay? So now, some general and super little recommendations for all of you. Of course, we're going to be publishing this tomorrow because tomorrow and Thursday, we're just going to practice. Super little recommendations for you to consider in the interlude of today's class and tomorrow's class. It's for example, for Miguel, very good. For example, notice that Miguel, rather than saying I believe this way for the following motives, he said, why do I believe this? And that was his transition phrase, which is good. Very good, Miguel, there. And in my case, Miguel, for you, what the only thing would like to me would be illustrations, okay? Your arguments are powerful, very good, but try to always come up with illustrations in order to, as I said, support those arguments, because that is going to make your case way stronger, okay? Very good. Laura, wonderful as well, following very well the topic. And for you, for example, what I would like to me would be as well illustrations in order to make your case even stronger, because your arguments are very convincing, just as Miguel's one. And also following the template a little bit more, okay? Try to always say your arguments with number, right? Firstly, secondly, and that way it's going to make the reviewer to understand your ideas way more clearly, okay? And organized as well. But very good, Laura. Nata, wonderful as well. In your case, it was just for the second point, it lacked to me illustration. For the first one, you did include an illustration, and it was wonderful. The first argument for me was perfect. Not only the argument, but also the illustration you gave was very powerful, and I think that it certainly helped and supported your argument. But for the second point, maybe because of the time you didn't include it, but fine, okay? Try to include always the illustration as well for the second point. For Sebastian as well, wonderful response, very well elaborated, very good grammar. Illustration, the only thing I would like to me as well, illustrations for every single argument, because with regard to the other things, it's wonderful. Okay, very good, Sebastian. Jessica as well, the only thing that lacks to me, illustration as well. And in this case, you just ran out of time for a matter of 3-4 seconds, but it's just, of course, it's the first time you're practicing this, so it's wonderful. But very good, okay? You are having a wonderful development. And finally, Claudia, wonderful as well. I mean, very well elaborated, very good arguments. The only thing, you just got out of time, but nonetheless, that is something that can be easily corrected, okay? So thank you very much, dear students. As I say, you have incredibly performed this task. Please don't go. I need to take your assistance. Reminder, tomorrow we're going to continue with this. And please help me today with the daily poll, right? Remind, please, you help me a lot with this daily poll. Fill it while I also take your assistance, okay? And if you have any other question, please feel free to ask anything while we are taking the assistance. For this, just a second. All right. So is here, for example, Claudia Patricia, Jennifer?
Yes, here.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, dear students. Now, please, before you go as well, help me with a second poll. Remind that all Wednesdays, we always take 2 polls, and it's super similar to the other one. Please look at your screen. Help me with the second one. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. It's just that, the company asks me to take 2 polls, but okay, let's continue, okay? Laura Mamani Choque.
Present teacher.
Thank you very much, Laura. Álvaro Chayapa. Okay, Álvaro was not here today. Jessica Gutierrez.
Present teacher.
Thank you very much, Jessica. What about Miguel Ángel Silva?
Present teacher.
Thank you very much, Miguel. And now let's go with Marlena Natalia. Okay, Marlena is not here today. Natalia Fernanda. Okay, thank you very much. What about Sebastián, Emilio?
Here.
Thank you very much, Sebastián. And finally, Paola Alejandra. Okay, Paola was not here as well. Okay, thank you very much, dear students. Tomorrow we are going to finalize with this. Well, not finalize, we are going to continue. Bring your piece of paper, bring your pencils. See you tomorrow. Please have your microphones ready, okay? Have a wonderful night. Thank you very much for being with me. Bye-bye.
Bye, teacher.
Thank you.
Hi, teacher.
Cheers,
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.